This was a piece of news that I wanted to talk about during New York Toy Fair, but I just didn't have the time because of all the other news that was just crashing down on top of me. And I felt so guilty about not talking about it because of how much I actually love this stuff. Like, it was just, it made me feel, no joke, like crap, not every day passing that I did not flesh out and talk about this. I love video games and I love Transformers and I love video game Transformer stuff. I did a humongous panel on the history of Transformers and video games back in, like, God, I think it was TFCon 2010. Vangelis on his YouTube channel has that whole panel recorded in glorious, as glorious as HD could be back in the day. And I just love the history of Transformers and video games, and I love the little weird niche stuff that existed in it from a rare manner. Also, I mean, look, my name in the fandom is Proto Man. It comes from Mega Man. I love video games and I love video game merchandise. And the news of this from Hasbro Gaming reviving their Tiger Electronics brand that they own now is big news for someone like me that grew up in that golden era of video games in the 80s and the 90s. Now, for people that aren't aware, before I jump into the news itself, what Tiger Electronics was back in the early days of handheld gaming. You pretty much had, before that, simple LCD stuff done by Game & Watch, which was done by Nintendo, a lot of third-party companies and bootleg Taiwan companies doing their own little things. And then when the Game Boy came around, the very first Game Boy, kind of reinvigorated how handhelds were going to be done. But Tiger, which was a company that was just doing its own thing, mostly known for its calculators and all kinds of devices of a simplistic electronic manner, figured that they could find a way to get into that market. Getting a Game Boy was $100 back then, which, with inflation today is almost $200. Getting an individual Game Boy game sometimes was between $40 and $60, depending on the game. Tiger Electronics found a way to sell people handheld games, individual handheld games, at a fraction of the cost based off of properties that they're familiar with and are happy with. Now, granted, are these games any good? Not really. They were the typical LCD games that anyone who's seen an LCD game, all the graphics are burned into one place. Those graphics are used interchangeably, and gameplay varies from game to game from decent at best to some of the worst play experiences you could ever have. I could just give you a suggestion right now, something like the Tiger Electronics Ninja Gaiden, Double Dragon, or Altered Beast. Those kind of beat 'em ups, I guess, kind of work for that. But platformers, forget about it. So what's going on here? Toy Fair essentially announced, with Hasbro Gaming using a lot of their brands that they currently license themselves, are going to be re-releasing Tiger Electronic games today. So you're going to be able to get The Little Mermaid, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, X-Men, or Transformers Generation 2. Now, this is kind of good news, and I'll tell you why. Number one, these are going to be $14.99. So that is actually not too expensive. Granted, technology is, considerably way better than it was 25 years ago when these things came out. So obviously it's cheaper to make these today. But Tiger Electronic games back in the day even were about $20 to $30. When you factor in inflation, it's about today's price. It's as if these would have cost like $32 to about $40 today. So the fact that they're $14.99 is a significant drop in price considering what they were 25 years ago. They could have easily attack this from a nostalgic collector's market value and slap like a $30 price tag on this, but they didn't. They were actually kind of honest with the price. Number two, while 3 of these games today, even today, if you bought the vintage ones, they don't go for that much. The X-Men game, you're talking, you could buy it mint in package complete from back in 92, I believe, when this one came out. You could pick it up for like $20, brand new. The Sonic game, a little more because you got your Sonic fans, maybe $30. And the Little Mermaid, you could pick it up for, again, like $10, $15, brand new. But here's the thing that's lucky for us Transformer fans. That original Generation 2 Tiger Electronic game is rare as F. That thing had a very small window that it was released, and then it just disappeared from the market. I could tell you this right now. A complete mint and package version, I've seen many times at different BotCons and TFCons in the past, go between $100 and $125. Loose ones go between $70 and $80 if they're in decent condition with their original black battery cover, which is always a common thing that's missing. So the fact that at least one of these that was extremely rare back in the day and a collector's item, and it's the one that's related to Transformers, is getting reissued, hey, that's great for all of us. But here's the next question. Is the game any good? I own the original. I slapped batteries into it back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean when I picked it up in the secondary market when eBay was a thing. I want to say I paid way too much. I think I paid like $60 for it. This was back in, I want to say 2003. It's not that great. But like I said, the beat 'em up kind of genre, which is what this game kind of falls into, is slightly better. It was a side scroller that you played as Optimus Prime, and you were in vehicle mode. You had to move forward. When a Decepticon would show up, you had to push the transform button, which I'll get into about the buttons and everything afterwards. You had to push the transform button, and then you had to push the attack button. You attack them. When the screen was cleared, you transformed back to vehicle mode, kept moving forward. You were going up against the clock or losing all your life, getting shot by different characters. Again, the limitations of a Tiger Electronic screen means there can only be so many characters and so many bosses and so many this. You fought Devastator, you fought Starscream, Ramjet, and at some points, if you wanted to, if the screen was too busy, you could call an Autobot, and depending on the level, you had Sideswipe, you had Jazz, you had Grimlock, and it wasn't anything spectacular, but I mean, back in the day, when you had a long car trip and it was 1992, or 1993 or 1994, and Game Boys were sucking batteries or you just couldn't afford one, hey, this wasn't too bad. This was something to keep you busy. I remember one of my friends back in the day, he had the Altered Beast one. And when we would take those trips up to the country house, you know, hey, it kept you busy. It wasn't, you know, again, it wasn't Super Mario Land. It wasn't Super Mario Land 2. It wasn't, you know, Link's Awakening. But it passed the time. And this game, too, buying it, again, I want to say it was 2003, 2004 when I bought it. When you play it, you go, you know what? I could see how this could have been kind of enjoyable back then. Now, in this article talking about this release here, they say that these are inspired replicas. Now, I can tell you this right now, being an owner of the original, this looks like a 100% one-for-one replica of the original. Granted, the packaging that they're showing here is slightly different. Like the packaging itself that is selling the product is different from how it looked back in the day. So you don't have to worry about that being a mistake. They have that G2/G1 Optimus Prime and Starscream package art on it. The original had it in a different placement at the bottom. You won't get the packaging mixed up. Now, as for the product itself, let's say you find these loose in the market, 20 years from now or 10 years from now. The only difference that I could really tell from what I could see is the placement of the Tiger logo, where it doesn't say electronic anymore, because I'm literally looking at mine right now in front of me. And so where it says Tiger on this new one, it should say electronic on the original 93 version. And the interesting one here, and this goes all the way back to me talking about trademarks, instead of it saying transform now on one of the buttons on the original, they made it to convert, because Hasbro can't use the transform term as a trademarked thing anymore, so they trademarked convert, and so now it says convert on the brand new version. But otherwise, it's exactly the same like the original. It looks like the graphics are going to be exactly the same, the gameplay is going to be exactly the same, all the buttons are mapped out exactly the same, so you're pretty much going to get the exact same experience 100% that people got back then in 93. And I'm going to assume that it's going to be the same for the X-Men, the Sonic, and the Little Mermaid. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel here with this kind of stuff and make brand new games. You might as well just repackage it. You're targeting a very specific demographic of nostalgia. That was kind of the name of the game over the weekend at Toy Fair. There was a lot of reissues of different lines, whether it be Ghostbusters, He-Man, or even Star Wars, and reissuing these products here, even from a video game standpoint, to target that demographic, it doesn't surprise me. They say here it's still going to work on 2 AA batteries, so to have that authentic experience. And these are scheduled to come out fall of 2020, and you could pre-order these right now at your local GameStop. So again, $14.99. I'll tell you this right now, that's pretty damn good. If you ask me, that's pretty good because, again, what I paid for this, the official one in the secondary market, was way too much. And it's very today. I haven't even checked on eBay right now, but I can't imagine there's many of them floating around, let alone any that went for under $100 easily. They go for way more. So to get a valuable piece of Transformers video game history, brand new for $14.99, I ain't complaining. Is the game very good? Were many Tiger Electronic games any good? They were a 7 out of 10 at best and a 1 out of 10 at worst. The sports games and like I said, the side scroller beat 'em ups are probably the better ones, but even then you get a 6 or 7 out of 10 if you're lucky, unless you have nostalgia talking. And look, I love the Mega Man ones too, but at the end of the day, just play Mega Man 2 on Nintendo. So it is what it is. I like these a lot though, just because of the price. Can't argue with the price. And again, fall 2020, check it out, pick it up. GameStop is a good place to pre-order. They're probably going to show up at other locations afterwards, but this is where they say right now you could get it. And again, pretty cool.